In this video, you are going to find out why your environment is so influential in how you build your habits. So my name is Monte Lee. I'm the host here of the Carrot Juice podcast. And this is the book club series where we are going over the summary of Atomic Habits. And this is chapter 6. In chapter 6, we're talking about environment and how your environment plays a huge factor on you and your habits and being more productive. So in this chapter, I gleaned and I learned about what your environment can do and how it can change your habits. And in that chapter, James Clear talked about how there was a researcher, a group that performed an experiment in a cafeteria where they talked about where they didn't say anything at all. They were in a hospital cafeteria, and what they basically did was, instead of telling people that they wanted them to drink more water, they actually just made it more convenient for them to pick up water. And I'll put a graph up on the screen here, but what you can see is there were only like 2 or 3 points where they could get water before. And what they did was they put water in areas next to the cash register. They put water in more accessible areas. And what they found out was at the end of their research and the experiment is people increased their consumption of water and purchasing of water and decreased their soda intake and purchasing and buying soda. And it wasn't because they said a word. It was because the environment changed and people took action. The same thing is true for what happens in a lot of supermarkets and grocery stores. We all have known and we all know that when you go to the grocery store, the most expensive items when you go through the grocery store are what? The ones that are eye level. So when you're walking through the grocery store and you're going to, like, let's say the aisle, I love tacos. So you're going to the aisle where you can get some of those, the taco seasoning, the taco shell, so you can make some like legit hard shell tacos, right? The name brand stuff like Ortega is gonna be right there eye level with you, and that's gonna be more expensive. It's the item that the store wants you to buy per se. And the more off-brand, cheaper options are gonna be lower where it's hard to reach or higher. And that is not only for convenience sake. It's put there because people are more prone to buy items when it's more easy and accessible for them. The same is true when you're trying to build habits. So what can we do to make sure that we're being more effective with our environment? James Clear talked about how what you need to start doing is setting up your environment for success. And there was a very famous person, a psychologist, Kurt Lewin, who wrote a simple equation that you've probably heard of. He did this back in 1936. He said in this powerful statement, behavior is a function of the person in their environment. And there's an equation for it where it's B equals F, P, and E. We've all heard that before. You're not just a sum of all the choices that you make. You are a product of your environment. And that came from the psychologist, the great psychologist, Kurt Lewin. So what did James Clear talk about and what can we do in implementation? I always like to talk about action. What can we implement in our lives to make sure that we're setting up our environment for success? An example of a way that you can make sure that you're set up for success is if you are working from home, for instance, and you answer emails, you are answering calls, and you are doing your work at, like a lot of people did during the pandemic, at your kitchen table or in your living room. It's going to be hard for you to be able to differentiate when you need to be working and when you need to be just doing family time or personal time where you're spending time with the people you care about. A way that you can implement a plan for success is you can either go to a separate room and have a dedicated office if you have space to be able to work. So then when you are doing your work, you can be productive in there. And when it's time for you to go and cook, you can do that in the kitchen. And if it's time for you to watch TV, relax, spend time with family, you can do that in the living room. He cautioned against mixing your areas, your environment, because when you do that, you could be less productive and you could be kind of pulled in all of these different ways. Because basically what I learned is our subconscious mind is way more impactful than we know on how we're going to be, how we are going to behave. And he talked about how we have a lot of different receptors and sensory things happening in our bodies, and we receive cues and context on things that are going on around us through a variety of things. Sight, taste, smell, touch, a lot of different things, right? Hearing. And the most powerful, we have 11 million receptors in the human body that does all types of different things. And 10 million of those receptors are all dedicated towards sight. So our sight is our most powerful tool. It could be to the positive and be an addition to us, or a detriment. So a way that you can set yourself up for success when it comes to implementing a plan is, what you need to do is learn the environment that you want to have and make sure it has the proper context for you to be able to do what you want to do. And he talked about how if you want to drink more water, what you should do is you should, when you wake up, put around the house fill up a lot of different bottles or water jugs and have them in different places throughout your space of where you're going to be moving about the day. So then you already can pick it up and be ready to, drink the water if that's something you want to do. Another way to implement this, for instance, is if you want to, let's say, read more, you could set a book in a place where you want to possibly read, in like a corner or a nook or on your bed pillow. So you're adding context, you're adding a cue already in place for you to be able to be successful. And in closing, he also talked about how our environment is affecting us all the time. Like, for instance, if you go out to a nightclub, you already going to be influenced to start drinking because you have not only one cue, but in a whole environment that's conducive to you possibly drinking. What are those? That's you seeing your friends ordering drinks, the venue, the ambiance, the music playing. All of those factors are going to get you in the mood to grab a drink. And the same is conducive for things in the office. For if you're going to the gym, when you go to the gym, you see other people working out, you see people drinking water, you see people with their energy drinks and bars, and you see people working out and, having a good time. All of those factors of seeing all of that context around you is going to get you in the mood to work out. So what can we do as an action step, making sure moving forward that we are implementing our habits in a better way and setting up our environment to be more productive? And what I've done without even knowing, without reading this book, is I have this dedicated room in my place where this is my studio. This is where I do YouTube content. And it's really been helpful for me when I think back of how I'm doing this, as when I come in here, I create content and that's it. I'm not creating content in other rooms. I leave this place completely dedicated for creativity, and it's helped me out so far doing that. And I did that without even knowing that that is a way to be able to be more productive and to build better habits and to make remarkable changes in your life. So that's been my summary and what I learned from chapter 6. I hope you find this helpful. If you did, do me a favor, as it really helps out a lot. Like the video, subscribe to the channel to get more content like this. This has been the chapter 6 book summary from my perspective of the great book, the New York Times best-selling book, The Atomic Habits, Chapter 6. And I don't want to waste your time, so I'm going to go ahead and go eat me some dinner and get on with my night. I wish you the best. And until next time, peace.